Great. Hi, everyone. In this video, Gabby will be giving a summary of different photogrammetry softwares that are available that you can use to build your 3D models.
Cool. Thank you, Alicia. I'm not by any means going to attempt to be comprehensive or definitive in this. This is really just a snapshot of a handful of the more common or the more popular pieces of software that are available for doing photogrammetry as of 2021 that we have come across. So exclusion from this list by no means means that it's not at all worth working with. Really, we just want to show some of the range and some of the sorts of options that are available and the sorts of criteria you would look at when deciding which one of these to use for your own work and your own project. And also partly to explain why we've chosen the tool that we have chosen for teaching with in the London 3D Summer School and in other circumstances as well. So these are the tools that I'm going to very quickly talk about, and the final version is even more sort of an example than anything else. There's a handful of tools out there that that work as phone apps and tablet apps that might be worth playing with. They tend not to have the same sort of high quality outputs as the desktop tools that we've looked at. So the first tool to talk about is Agisoft Metashape. This tool is the one that we'll be using as a demonstration tool and as a teaching tool for this summer school. You download it from the Agisoft website. It works pretty much out of the box for both Mac and Windows on all platforms. You can improve the performance, as you can with most tools, by tweaking your GPU settings. Excuse me. It is not free software. A standard license is $59 for an education license. This is, however, a permanent license, and if you're not in an educational institution, it's slightly more expensive. This is a permanent license, which even if they update the software and produce a much better version several years later, you can get a free upgrade with that license. We had some licenses with their predecessor software several years ago, and we were able to update to Metashape for free from that. So it's quite handy for that. It's not hugely expensive. Getting a site license. So this is the prices I put on here for the standard version. There is a more advanced version, a professional version of the software, which is an order of magnitude more expensive than that, or possibly even more. So 10 or 20 times the price of those quoted prices, and you can also get a site license, which is even more expensive. So it's not by any means cheap software, but the educational version is completely affordable. The version we'll be using is a 30-day free trial, which is fully functional, but just for those 30 days. You can also, if you like, have a demo version, which doesn't expire, but you can't save your work from it. But if all you're doing is practicing, maybe that doesn't matter to start with, and you can decide whether you want to use the commercial version later. Other options available, you'll see why one or other of these features made it slightly less suitable for us to use in this summer school. Another very popular tool is Meshroom, which is part of the Alice Vision suite of tools, which you can find from here. This only works for Windows and Linux, and so the lack of a Mac version was basically what ruled it out for us for the training. But for a project that might not be an issue for you. It is a free and open source tool. However, it is pretty robust from what I understand, and it does have some built-in post-processing functions and features as well to do a little bit more of the sort of editing and tidying up of the tool afterwards. So it's pretty good for those reasons. Another open source tool is OpenSFM, which is a structure from motion tool. This is, again, works on all three platforms. It's free and open source. From experience, it can sometimes take a little bit of fiddling with to get it to install. You may find that some libraries on your computer have to be updated or installed from scratch. And if you're horrified by the idea of updating or installing new libraries on your computer, then you probably shouldn't try. So it can be a bit difficult, and I wouldn't want to use this with a class of students, especially if we weren't all in the same room, able to help people get things installed. So it's a little bit harder to use at this point. It may be a good longer term option for a project that doesn't that wants to work with open source tooling. It's quite an extensible tool because it's based on this open source network. It's very well documented, and it has a strong community around it. So there's a lot of people around who can help with their individual bits that you're trying to get to work. Another open source tool that also uses this structure from motion underlying system is Visual SFM. This, as you can see from this screenshot, is even more sort of command line based, if you like. It's it involves a fair amount of installation, and so it works as a set of libraries written in code. You can install new libraries on there. You can find things from the wider community. This means that it'll work on any platform, but it does mean that it's a little bit more difficult to use. It's only free for non-profit use. So if you want to use this as part of a commercial entity, then there are license options. It's quite a powerful tool, but using it does feel a little bit like you're programming. You have to occasionally do things from the command line. You have to open new windows to do each individual thing, and if something crashes, it doesn't always know. It's not always easy for you to figure out what's going on. If you're quite comfortable with installing and coding and so forth, then you might not mind this. But if you're primarily a historian with who likes the idea of taking pictures and making the models from them, but not getting into the guts of your computer, then it can be a little bit off-putting. Another tool, this one slightly more expensive, is the 3D Zephyr. This is a Windows-only tool. It has quite a nice range of options, but it is, because it's commercial software, it has quite a wide range of price and license combinations. There is a free version of it, but it has very limited functionality. There's all sorts of features that have been turned off. You can't use more than 50 photographs to produce your model. So for teaching, maybe this would be fine, except that it's Windows only. But you couldn't use it, the free version you couldn't use for more advanced project work. You wouldn't want to try and use this out on an archaeological site and without paying for one of the more advanced licenses. I think the last one I'm going to talk about here is another tool called Reality Capture. This again is quite an advanced tool that has quite a lot of features built in. It's again Windows only. It has a wide range of price options. Including the cheapest ones work on a pay-per-input version, so you pay for a relatively cheap license, but you can only then process a certain number of images, and then that license will expire. So it's not time expired, but it's the number of inputs that you put into it, which is usually something like 1,000 images or something for the smallest thing. So you might make a couple of dozen models in that time, but not a huge number. It does, however, combine photogrammetry and other 3D methods. But as I say, the more advanced licenses do get quite pricey with this one. And then there's a whole range, and I've just put one of them up on the screen, this tool called Clone, but there's a whole range of apps that will work on phones and tablets and so forth, that will do a bit of photogrammetry for you. They'll either do it using a cloud service, or they'll do the processing locally on the device. And given that one of these desktop tools with a dedicated twin GPU tool can take quite a long time and overheat while trying to process your image in high quality, the idea of your cell phone producing all this photogrammetry for you, you can kind of assume that the quality of the output isn't going to be the same as you would get from these big desktop tools. Clone has a free demo version, but the demo version means you can't export or download your images, and a premium license is needed to get to actually do anything with your models. It does, as I said, this one does the processing locally, which is a little bit of an alarm bell for me, because it seems to me it's not going to give you hugely high quality models. If you're not after hugely high quality models, then that's fine. It might be a perfectly good tool for creating small models for demonstration purposes, for posting to the web and things like that. But you have to decide what the options are. In summary, there's a huge range, even just between those half a dozen tools that we've looked at here. There's a huge range in terms of the prices available, the licensing options offered, and the quality offered by the individual tools. The free tools that are available usually require you to fiddle around with them and not to be scared of poking in the guts of your computer a little bit. So that would be my caveat on those. There is, as far as we've been able to see, neither among the tools we've looked at here nor the many other tools which you could find if you search for photogrammetry software on the web, no single solution that is free, works on all platforms, easy to use, and would be really ideal for use in a teaching environment like a summer school. Such as this, which is why the version we've selected is a non-free version that has this free trial version that doesn't cost us anything if you decide not to keep using it after the 30 days. When you are deciding what tool to use in the longer term, it's worth thinking about trying out various demo versions and trial versions of these various tools and deciding which ones work for you and that you like the interface and that seem to give you good quality output and that perform well on your computer before deciding what to spend what could be large amounts of money on licenses for. Also bear in mind that if you're working as part of a project, an archaeological project, or for a heritage institution, they may have their preferred solution or their in-house tool that they expect you to work with, and in that case they would probably have already paid for it for you, so it may not be a decision you have to make, but it's worth thinking, rather before saying, oh well, I'll spend $500 on an individual license for this tool because I know I'll use it in my next job. Another tool may come along when you enter that next job, so it may be worth just checking what other people have done. So that's about what I had to say on this. Did you want to add any thoughts, Alicia? What tools do you use in your archaeological work? You're still muted.
Thanks. Yeah, I mostly use Agisoft Metashape for it, but when I was without an affiliation with an institute, I used Meshroom. But yeah, as you mentioned, it only works for Windows, and it's also a nodes-based program, so it can be a little bit confusing the first time you use it too, just getting used to connecting all the processes together. But yeah, I'm quite happy with both of those. Yeah, huge variety out there.
Great. Cool.
Thank you.
Cheers.